Okay, I waited for the recording to come on. And we are in the week of 6/4/21, and I had some chapter 3 questions sent to me. A couple of these questions are out of place and way too long. I think the question about the fence is way too long. I mean, it took me about 10 minutes to actually do that problem. And that's a little bit ridiculous. But on the long problems, I'm going to start you off. And on the short problems, I'll do those with no problem. But let's go ahead and get started. Chapter 3.1, 79/17. 3.179/17. And this is having to do with I. And I basically, I tell my students, I is a fraction of the class, and 1 is a whole. And if you have an odd number, that's negative. If you have an even number, that's positive. If you have a fraction, that means that you are dealing with a I. And if you have a whole number, that means you're dealing with 1. Okay? So I tell my students, to take your exponent and divide by 2. That's what I tell my students to do. Now this question says, well, if I could get the right thing, hold on. This question says, I to the negative 31 power. I to the negative 31 power. So I take that exponent and I divide it by 2. And I get negative 15 and a half. Negative. Now, what have I got as far as an I? Well, is 15 and a half a fraction or a whole number? It's a fraction, Hubert. So I is a fraction. And is 15 and a half odd or even? It's odd. So that's a negative I. And negative times a negative is a positive I. And that's how you do those type problems. I just tell students to remember this. I'll do another one. Let's do I to the 24th power. 24 divided by 2 is 12. Is 12 a whole number? Yes, it's a whole number. Therefore, 1. Is 12 odd or even? It's even. Therefore, your answer is positive 1. And that's the way you do it. But what about I to the 46th power? Okay. I to the 46th power. 46 divided by 2 is 23. Is 23 an even number? No, it's odd, so that's negative. And is it a whole number? Yes, 1. And you just got to remember, I is a fraction of the class and 1 is a whole. And that's what you need to remember on those. And is that a test question? Yes, probably 1 or 2 on the test. If you have, if you have to do that. Okay. All right. And in the videos, I cover what I is. I is the square root of negative 1, which means you have a radical. And sometimes when you have I, you need to conjugate to get rid of the radical. So this would be I. Yay, we got that one right. Next question. 3.188/19. 3.188/19. And it says Okay, prove that the square root of 2 over 2 plus the square root of 2 over 2i is equal to I, is a square root of I. Okay, so I'm going to, it is equal to square root of I. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to square both sides because I want to get rid of the radical. So I square both sides to get rid of the radical right here. And that's going to give me a plus b quantity squared is equal to I. And a plus b quantity squared is a squared plus 2ab plus b squared, shortcut number 1. So square root of 2 over 2, square root of 2 over 2, square root of 2 over 2i, square root of 2 over 2i. And what does this come out to be? Well, the square root of 2 squared is 2. 2 squared is 4. And I'm going to do everything, let's see, 2 times square root of 2 times square root of 2. Well, that's 2 times square root of 2 times square root of 2. That's 4. Because 2 square root of 2, so that's 4 over 2 times 2 is 4. That's I. Okay. And if you want to write it out, 2 square root of 4 over 4. And you'll see that cancels out. Oh, yeah, you have I plus square root of 2 squared is 2. 2 squared is 4. I squared is negative 1. And this already looks good because this goes out. 2 times the square root of 4 is 2 times 2. 4 is over 4, so that cancels. And 2/4 plus 2/4 is 1/4, correct? And that would be, no, not 1/4. That's 1 and negative 1. So, okay, there we go. 2/4 plus I minus 2/4, was that negative times that, is equal to I, and the 2/4 cancel, and you're left with I is equal to I. Not a test question, but it's a good homework question. I don't mind it being a homework question. You got to learn your shortcuts, and you got to know that the square root of I squared is I, and I squared is equal to negative 1. All those things are important. I wouldn't put it as a test question, but it's a good homework question. Next. That takes care of these two. 3.3, 14, 3.3, sorry, 3.3, 29, 14. 3.3, 29/14. And this was a good test question. Solve the following. Okay, x times 2x minus 9 is equal to 45. And distribute. And that's going to be 2x squared minus 18. I'm sorry, I just had a brain bubble there. X, I thought that was a 2. That was 9x equals 45. I'm going to use complete the square because, as I told you in the videos, completing the square is very important. 2x squared minus 9x plus blank is equal to 45 plus blank. Factor out a 2 because you can't do complete in the square until this is a 1. So that would be 2x squared minus 9/2 x plus blank is equal to 45 plus 2 times blank. And yes, I'm going to get a highlighter because I do this in all my classes. Anytime you do complete in the square, whatever you factor out here, you've got to multiply by this right side blank. I don't care if you factor out 100 or negative 1/2. It has to be multiplied by that right side blank. Now I'm going to do 9/2 divided by 2, which is 2 over 1, and square it. Well, 9/2 divided by 2 over 1 is the same as 9/2 multiplied by 1/2. And that's 9/4 squared, which is 81 over 16. And the reason people use complete in the square is because all the math is based on 1st through 7th grade math. You do have a little bit of algebra, shortcut number 2 right here based on this negative. But the rest of it's just, now if you can't do 1st through 7th grade math, then yeah, complete in the square that's why a lot of teachers in K through 12 shy away from complete in the square, because they can't do basic math. So 2, shortcut number, would be x minus 9/4 quantity squared is equal to, well, that 2 will cancel that into an 8. And we've got to change this into something 8ths. So that's going to be, let me take a different color pen. And 8 times 4 is 40. Bring your 4, 8 times 32 with 4 is 360. So 360 divided by 8 is 45. So 360 plus 81, I guess, is going to be what? 441, I hope. 441 over 8. Now at this point, this is the vertex. This right here is the vertex. It's called vertex form when you put an f of x in front of it and bring this 441. So I'm going to start the next page. I'm trying to leave it on there. There you go, so you can pause the video. And I'm going to go to the next page and rewrite this. And if you did the 10 or 12 problems on the video, you know that we are going to write it in vertex form, because some of the test questions like that. And I'm going to write vertex form over here. F of x, put f of x in front of it. 2 times x minus 9/4 square, and then bring this over as a negative 441 over 8. And that's called vertex form. And some of your homework questions or test questions might want it in vertex form. Now that's just a preference. I don't care anything about that. I tell students to find the vertex right here, take the opposite of both numbers. So that'd be 9/4, comma, negative 441 over 8. And that's your vertex. And now we're going to solve for x. And that's going to be 2 times x minus 9/4 quantity squared is equal to 441 over 8. Divide by 2 over 1, multiply by 1 over 2. And that's going to be x minus 9/4 quantity squared is equal to 441 over 16. Now I have no idea. Let's see what 21 squared is. That's the only thing I could come up with on 441. So where's my calculator? Let me just go here and do it. 21 raised to the second power. There it is. So we know that that's a perfect square. I thought it was. So I'm going to take the square root of both sides. And that's going to give me x minus 9/4 is equal to positive or negative 21 over 4. And then x is equal to positive or negative 21 plus 9 over 4. And that's going to give you 2 x-intercepts. Positive 21 plus 9 is 30 over 4. And negative 21 plus 9 is negative 12 over 4, which is equal to 3. And this is 7 1/2, I think, something like that. So there's your 2 x-intercepts. Your y-intercept on this one is negative 45, because negative 45 would be over here. So the y-intercept is negative 45. So now you got everything you need to draw it up. So here we go. We got a vertex of 9/4, which is 2 1/4, 1, 2 1/4, and down, I have no idea, 8, 41. Let's divide 441 divided by 8 and see what it is. 441 divided by 8, 55.125, so that's negative. It's way down here. Negative 55.125. We got 7.5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 7.5 right there. Negative 3. And then a y-intercept of negative 45. So that'd be somewhere in there. And check it on your graphing calculator. It should be something like that. So if you can do all of this, if you can do the completing the square and do that, which I know there's 10 problems on the videos, because I always, in my Math 109 and 110, I always cover at least 10 problems with completing the square. And there is the result right here. And of course, the domain is all real numbers. The range is from negative 441/8 to infinity, decreasing from negative infinity to negative 9/4, increasing from 9/4 to positive infinity. And that is a test question, because I like completing the square on the test, period. Okay, the solution set. They just want the x-intercepts. When they want the solution, that means the x-intercepts. And it says in terms of I. I don't do in terms of I, so you'll have to change 30 over 4 and negative 12 over 4. Change that into radicals. So I'm not going to, I'll do this for you. 3. And give you the answer so you can check it with your work. So we got negative 3 correct. And that's 15 over 2, that's 7/2. So we did get those right. Okay. And for those of you that don't remember what I'm talking about, I'll bring it down here. There's the x-intercepts, negative 3. And 15/2, which is 7.5. So they just wanted the x-intercepts. I just go through the whole thing as I do in the videos. Next, and I think this is the long one, the one that I think is misplaced. I don't think it's a very good question. I don't think it's a good homework question or a good math question, period, because it's way too long. Now, I'll start you off, but I'm going to tell you, it is a very long problem. The first couple of things I don't have a problem with. It's when you have to actually test samples and all that. That just gets to be ridiculous. Okay, so draw a picture of it. And when you draw a picture of it, it's going to be a three-sided rectangle pretty much. You got the highway up here. You got a fence, and it goes like this. You got three sides. Two sides are X and X. You got a perimeter of this that equals the perimeter of the three sides. Is equal to 760. Therefore, the whole perimeter minus 2x is equal to this side right here. So that's one of the questions they ask. You take the perimeter and subtract x plus x, which is 2x, and that's the third side. Okay? And they say something to the effect B, what values do you use for x? Well, they have to be positive because distance cannot be negative. Okay? Distance cannot be negative. So therefore, they have to be positive, so they have to be above 0. Your answers, your x's, are going to have to be above 0. And they can't be 0 because there's no such thing as 0 distance. Okay, 0 feet means nothing. Okay, so set the equation right here, set that side equal to 0. So 760, this is A, this is B. 760 minus 2x is equal to 0. Negative 2x, I don't like that. Positive 2x is equal to, move that over here, 760. Divide by 2. X is equal to 380. So your numbers are going to have to be less than 380. Okay, between 0 and 380. So X is between 0 and up to 380. So that's B. I'm sorry. So A is your perimeter, which is three sides. So X plus X is 2X. And subtract that from the perimeter, and that is the side here. And then for x's, what numbers can be used here? Well, you can only use positive numbers because negative numbers mean nothing in distance. So you have to be above 0, so you set it equal to 0. And the numbers that are above that are from 0 to 380. Not inclusive of 0 because 0 feet doesn't work. It has to be above 0. So that's B. C says what? Determine the function that represents the area. Well, that's not a big deal. And these 2 or 3 questions at the beginning are not a big deal. Okay, C equals, okay, I'm sorry. They want to know the area. Area equals, I can't spell, length times width, or base times height. I don't care which one you use. We know that one side is X, and then the other side is 760 minus 2X. And you just use your algebra here. So the area of this parking lot is going to be 760x minus 2x squared, or negative 2x squared plus 760x. Now up to this point, I'm okay with this problem. Okay. As a test question, I would be glad to give you this as a test question, A, B, and C. After A, B, and C, it gets a little bit ridiculous, okay? As far as a test question, I'll be honest with you, as far as a homework question, it just takes entirely too long for somebody to do this problem. But I'll go ahead and start you on D. D says, determine the values of X that will give you an area of the parking lot between 20,000 square feet and 40,000 square feet. And you just put your formula in the middle. 20,000 less than or equal to negative 2x squared plus 760x 40,000. Solve this for x. Now I'm going to solve it for x, but everybody out there should know how to solve it because you've done it before, just smaller numbers. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is divide by 2 all the way across, negative 2. And of course, when you divide by negative 2, that flips the inequalities. And these are supposed to be just, forget the equal sign. So that's going to give you negative 10,000 greater than x squared minus 380x. And that's negative 20,000. Okay. Now it would be easier to complete the square in the middle, and whatever you add to the middle, you've got to add to these guys. Now, why do we want to complete the square? Because you can't add 380x to any of these. You can't add it. You just get more of a mess. So that's why we're going to get a shortcut right here by using completing the square. So negative 10,000 plus blank x squared minus 380x plus blank negative 20,000 plus blank. So we're going to take 380, we're going to divide it by 2 and square it. 380 is 190 quantity squared, which I got 36,100. 36, 100. 36, 100. 36, 100. 36, Okay, I hope my internet's up. I don't know what. Oh, anyway, I'm going to go ahead and finish this. Okay, and that's going to be 26,100 and 16,100. And you're going to take the square root of both sides. And that's going to give you x minus 190 in the middle. X minus 190. And the square root of 26,100, I believe, is 351. Yeah, 351.55. and the square of 16 is 2845. And now you're going to, I think, yeah, you set this equal to each other and you just take the square root of both sides. Yeah. So x is going to be, yeah, I'm pretty sure, yeah. And that's as far as I want to go on that one. I'm not going to go through the, you have to test points, and then you have to, and it's just, I'm going to give you that much, and I'm going to go to the next problem because I don't want to take up too much time. And if you want me to go over it more, I'll go over it more. But right now, I want to get through the other problems. Next problem. This is 3.421. 3.421/11. And this is another one that's a pain. Okay, I'll get it started for you. Okay, first of all, the length on this one, if you draw the graph, draw the picture. I'm going to draw it, and then I'm going to turn to the white page after I draw it. And draw a line here, a line here, a line here, and a line here. This is 3 inches, 3 inches. Okay, my Teams or my wireless just went through another episode. So I'm just going to switch over here. And there's our drawing. And we know that the length, the question says the length is equal to 2.9 times the base, or the width, or the height, whatever you want to call it. This is pretty much x. And this right here is 2.9x. Okay? Now we also have these parts cut out. And if you're talking about this direction, right here, you got to add 3 inches this way and 3 inches that way. And if you're talking about this length here, you're talking about 3 inches this way and 3 inches this way. So when you see the 6, you're going to see a 6 here in a minute. The 6 is because of 3 plus 3 in this direction and 3 plus 3 in this direction. So I just wanted you to be aware of the 3 plus 3, and that's 6. So the length of this box, pretty much, length is equal to 2.9x, which is this right here, the pink, all right, minus 6, because you're going to cut those 3 inches out. And then the height, or this is orange, is x minus 6. So we'll call that the length times the height, or the base times the height. How about that? I don't care. Okay, so I don't know what part of the question that is, but that's part of, and that's a good testable. I don't mind that being on the test. Okay. The volume of this, since this is the base times the height, area, is equal to base times height. So you'd multiply those two together. Volume is equal to base times height times whatever you call the depth, or you can say length times width times height, or you can say base times height times how deep something is. So the depth of this box is 3 inches, because when you fold it up, when you fold these sides up, it's going to be 3 inches deep. So the height here is, I'm going to put depth, D-E, I don't know the depth. Is it D-E-B-T-H? Depth, I can't remember, is equal to 3 inches. Therefore, the area is equal to 2.9x minus 6 times x minus 6. That's the area. And the volume is equal to this, 2.9x minus 6, x minus 6 times 3. And that's the volume. And again, I'm not going to go through that because I think y'all can work that algebra out. And that's where you get all the other stuff from the problem that they go through and ask. Okay. All right, next question. And I wish I could go further, but I've got to do other problems, and I'm going to get these problems out of the way. 3.425. 3.425/12, and that's this question, which says a square lawn has an area of 1,800 feet squared. So a square lawn is 1,800 feet squared. So that's the area. So whatever is equal to, you know, the square root of, so let's do that. 1,800 is equal to x times x, which is x squared. So the square root x squared, x is equal to, and 9 times 200. So that's going to be the square root of 9, the square root of 200. And I can take the square root of 100, square root of 9, square root of 100, square root of 2. And that's going to be 9 is 3 times 10 times square root of 2. So x is equal to 30 times the square root of 2. I just wanted to do that because I know that if 1,800 is the area, and this is a square, then this side has to be the same as this side. So that's why I did x squared. All right, anyway, the radius, sprinkler placed at the center of the lawn sprays water in a circular pattern as shown. What is the radius of the circle? So the four corners are touched by the circle. That. Okay, you get the point. Okay. Hold on just a second. No, I can't stop the. It makes no sense why I don't put a pause button on this. It makes no sense. Okay, so you know that the area, because you got to find some way of, well, you know the area right here is the same. I don't know why they want to put the area right there. I mean, the radius right here is the same. The radius is the same no matter what. Okay, so you just got to figure what that R is right there. And we know that, we know the, let me just pull them up. Circle properties. I'm just going to pull them up and let you look at them. I can't remember all of them. Properties of circle. And of course, the area is equal to, well, I thought we'd get some area and all that. Hold on. Well, I guess not. Area, volume, and circumference. Okay, there must be something wrong with the internet or my wireless, because it just did it while I tried to get on the, tried to find this for you. And here we go. There we go, right here. This is good. Circumference is equal to 2 pi r. Circumference is equal to 2 pi r. Area is equal to pi r squared. We don't need that. That's good enough. I wanted to get the volume, but that's a three-dimensional. We don't need that right now. Okay, so if we have R, we done found out that R is, let's see, we found out that X is equal to, yeah, we found out the side of X right here. So the area, yeah. Okay, this thing is messing up. I'm going to stop this video and we'll start another video here in just a second.